study shows some hot spots for a bacteria that could make you sick. It causes ulcers and even stomach cancer, and it's too often underdiagnosed.
Your pharmacy sells a drug cocktail that costs $500 and fails in 1 out of every 5 patients. But a farmer on Chios is collecting the cure with his hands. On the southern coast of a small Greek island in the Aegean Sea, he walks into a grove of low evergreen trees before dawn. He carries a small curved knife. He scores 5 shallow cuts into the bark of each tree. By noon, clear amber droplets are forming along the wound, catching the light like frozen honey. They call them the tears of Chios. He collects them one by one, the exact same way his grandfather did, and his grandfather before him, for roughly 2,500 years. These droplets kill a bacterium living in the stomachs of half the people on Earth. The bacterium causes ulcers. It causes gastric cancer. The World Health Organization classifies it as a Class 1 carcinogen, the exact same category as asbestos and tobacco smoke. By 2040, it is projected to kill more than 1.3 million people a year worldwide, more than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. But these droplets are not a synthetic drug. They are tree sap, and they kill this bacterium at concentrations smaller than a grain of sand dissolved in a glass of water. They work against strains that have evolved total resistance to every modern antibiotic on the market. The New England Journal of Medicine published the proof in 1998. Yet most American doctors have never even heard of them. Under the Ottoman Empire, the punishment for stealing this resin was execution. In 1822, when Ottoman troops massacred 42,000 people on this island, they intentionally spared the 24 villages that produced it. Christopher Columbus wrote about it in a letter home from the New World. Hippocrates prescribed it 2 millennia ago. This is the story of Chios mastic, the tears of the mastic tree, the oldest chewing gum on Earth, and the medicine that has outlasted every empire that tried to own it. The archive opens in the 5th century BCE. The Greek historian Herodotus, writing the first known work of history in the Western world, documents that Egyptian embalmers use a gum imported from a Greek island to preserve the bodies of their dead. Archaeological analysis of Egyptian mummies dating back more than 2,700 years has since identified the residue on the linen wrappings. It is Chios mastic. Around 2,400 years ago, Hippocrates, the Greek physician who founded Western medicine, prescribes this exact resin for indigestion, stomach pain, respiratory infections, and freshening the breath. He calls it by a single Greek word, mastikine, which means to chew. The word mastic, the word masticate, and the English phrase chewing gum all descend from this one Greek verb. In the 4th century BCE, Theophrastus catalogues the mastic tree in the founding text of Western botany. He notes that the resin only forms in significant quantities on one specific stretch of coast, on one island. Attempts to cultivate the tree elsewhere produce the plant, but not the medicinal gum. This remains true today. Every attempt to transplant Chios mastic, including to botanical gardens in Turkey just 8 nautical miles away, has completely failed to produce commercial quality resin. Around 2,000 years ago, the Greek physician Dioscorides catalogues mastic in De Materia Medica, the pharmaceutical reference that remains the standard medical textbook in Europe for the next 1,500 years. He prescribes it for the stomach, the gums, wounds that will not heal, and for what he describes as the corruption of the teeth. By the time of the Byzantine Empire, the mastic trade is controlled directly by the emperor. The price, at its peak, matches the price of gold by weight. In 1493, on a return voyage from the Caribbean, a Genoese sailor named Christopher Columbus writes a letter to the treasurer of Aragon, announcing the discovery of the New World. In that same letter, He notes the existence of the mastic trade on Chios. He had visited the island years earlier to recruit sailors. He knew exactly what the resin was worth. In 1566, the Ottoman Empire conquers Chios. The Sultan immediately places the 24 mastic villages under the direct control of his mother. The villages are built as literal fortresses. No doors open to the street. Residents enter their homes by ladder and pull the ladder up behind them. The entire architecture of these villages exists to protect a single plant's resin. In 1822, during the Greek War of Independence, the Ottoman army arrives on Chios and executes one of the largest massacres in 19th century Europe. 42,000 civilians are killed, but the 24 mastic villages are spared by direct order of the Sultan. He still wants the resin. By 2014, the traditional cultivation of Chios mastic is officially inscribed by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. The European Union grants it protected designation of origin status. Only resin harvested from that specific southern strip of Chios can legally be sold as Chios mastic anywhere in Europe. Every empire that conquered Chios tried to own the mastic. None of them ever stopped harvesting it. The continuity is unbroken. The only place in the world where this medicine has been forgotten is the United States. To understand why, you have to understand what happened in 1982. Two Australian scientists published a paper claiming that most stomach ulcers were not caused by stress, diet, or excess acid. They were caused by a bacterial infection. They named the bacteria Helicobacter pylori. The medical establishment rejected the claim for over a decade. In 1984, the lead scientist actually drank a petri dish of the ulcer bacteria himself to prove the theory. The scientists eventually received the Nobel Prize in medicine. The moment the bacterial cause of ulcers was proven, an entire pharmaceutical industry pivoted. Antacids were replaced by a new, highly profitable protocol: triple therapy. A proton pump inhibitor to suppress stomach acid, plus 2 powerful antibiotics to kill the bacteria. The prescription cost between $400 and $600 per course. The global market for these bacterial eradication therapies is projected to reach $9.7 billion by 2033. But by the early 2000s, the first cracks appeared. The ulcer bacteria was evolving resistance. By 2015, antibiotic resistance alone was reducing treatment success rates by up to 50%. The American College of Gastroenterology formally recommended against standard triple therapy in most regions of the world. Today, the eradication rate of first-line triple therapy has fallen below 80%. More than 1 in 5 patients experience total treatment failure, and the pharmaceutical industry's only answer has been to pile on more antibiotics, more expense, and more resistance. But in December 1998, in a letter to the editor of the New England Journal of Medicine, a team of researchers in the United Kingdom quietly published a finding that should have changed everything. The researchers tested crude mastic gum against the ulcer bacteria in the laboratory, not a pharmaceutical-grade extract. Crude resin, exactly as the farmers of Chios have harvested it for 2,500 years. The results were extraordinary. Mastic killed the bacteria at incredibly low concentrations, resulting in a 1,000-fold reduction in viable pathogens. It worked against strains that were already completely resistant to standard antibiotics. The researchers noted that even the absolute lowest concentration they tested still significantly inhibited bacterial growth. The letter closed with a single observation: the anti-ulcer properties of mastic, documented clinically for over 2,400 years, are at least partly explained by this direct antibacterial effect. The paper was read by perhaps a few hundred gastroenterologists worldwide, but no pharmaceutical company launched a mastic-based product, because mastic cannot be patented. The tree grows on one stretch of Greek coastline. The specific molecule responsible for the antibacterial activity occurs naturally in the crude resin, in its active living form. There is no version a drug company can exclusively own. But the research did not stop. In 2010, a team at Chios General Hospital published a randomized controlled trial showing that mastic alone, taken for 14 days, eradicated the infection in roughly 30% of patients. Then, in 2023, a team of Egyptian gastroenterologists published the most important mastic trial yet. 180 patients, all suffering from active bacterial infections, were randomized into two groups. Group A received the standard triple-drug antibiotic regimen. Group B received the exact same triple-drug regimen, plus mastic gum. The standard pharmaceutical regimen alone achieved 63.3% eradication. The regimen plus mastic achieved 92.2% eradication. Adding a piece of tree resin that has been harvested by hand for 25 centuries increased the eradication rate of a multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical protocol by 29 percentage points. The paper was published in November 2023. The FDA has not updated its treatment guidelines. In February 2016, the European Medicines Agency formally approved mastic gum as a traditional herbal medicinal product for mild digestive disorders and minor skin inflammation. This is the highest category of approval available for a product with 2,500 years of continuous use. But there has been insufficient modern industry funding for full pharmaceutical trials. Meanwhile, in the United States, mastic gum is sold as an unregulated dietary supplement, typically unknown to the gastroenterologist who prescribed your antibiotics. And the ulcer research is only part of what mastic does. In clinical trials published in 2024, 5 grams per day of mastic gum significantly reduced total cholesterol, triglycerides, and dangerous LDL cholesterol in human subjects over 18 months simultaneously. The same molecules that interfere with bacterial membranes appear to interfere with the enzymes that synthesize cholesterol in the liver. In a 2024 study on skin aging, mastic extract was shown to inhibit the two specific enzymes responsible for breaking down the structural proteins of skin as we age. It performed at concentrations competitive with pharmaceutical-grade compounds currently used in hyper-expensive anti-aging creams. In dental research, mastic has been documented reducing oral bacterial plaque by over 40%. Chewing a single small piece of resin for 15 minutes produces measurable reductions in the primary bacterium responsible for tooth decay. The ancient Greek women who chewed mastic for white teeth were not relying on folklore. They were 2,400 years ahead of the dental industry. In inflammatory bowel disease, a 2007 study documented significant reductions in inflammatory markers in patients with Crohn's disease treated with mastic for 4 weeks. Mastic contains more than 80 distinct bioactive compounds working in perfect combination. No synthetic drug on the pharmaceutical market combines antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, cholesterol-lowering, and anti-aging activity in a single molecule. The tree on Chios does. It has done it for 2,500 years, and nobody can patent it. Chios mastic is available in the United States. It is sold in 2 forms, powdered capsules and whole resin tears, which look like small, pale yellow crystals. Whole tears are the traditional form. You can find them in Mediterranean grocery stores, Middle Eastern specialty shops, and increasingly in health food stores. If the packaging does not carry the EU-protected designation of origin stamp from the European Union, it is not real Chios mastic. It is likely a lower quality resin from another plant species, and the clinical data does not apply to it. For breath freshening and oral health, Chew a single small tear, about the size of a pea, for 15 minutes. Historical record and modern dental research both confirm this works. For digestive use and the stomach bacteria protocol documented in the clinical trials, the method is different. Chewing does not deliver the resin to the stomach. The clinical trials all used powdered mastic in capsule form, taken orally, so the resin reaches the stomach intact. This is an important clinical distinction. The dose used in the 1998 British protocol was 1 gram per day for 14 days. The 2010 Greek trial used 350 milligrams 3 times per day for 14 days. The 2023 Egyptian trial, acting as a booster to antibiotic therapy, used the same 350 milligrams 3 times per day alongside the standard antibiotic regimen. Note the dose consistency across trials. If you are currently on an ulcer treatment protocol, do not stop the antibiotics. The recent clinical data shows that adding the mastic to the antibiotics is exactly what produced the 92% eradication rate. Work with your gastroenterologist. For cholesterol support, the trial dose was 5 grams per day, delivered in capsule form. This was used for cholesterol studies. Mastic is incredibly well tolerated. No serious adverse events have been reported in any clinical trial to date. It is generally very tolerated. A tree grows on one small stretch of coastline on one Greek island. Its resin has been harvested by hand, using the exact same curved knives and the exact same 20-day drying process for at least 2,500 years. Hippocrates prescribed it. The Byzantine emperor controlled it. The Ottoman Sultan killed for it. In 1998, a British research team proved that this resin kills the bacterium responsible for most stomach ulcers and a massive share of gastric cancers worldwide. In 2023, an Egyptian team proved that adding the resin to modern antibiotics raises the eradication rate from 63% to 92%. These are proved clinical results. A pharmaceutical industry worth nearly $10 billion a year treats that exact same bacterium with patented drug protocols that fail in 1 out of every 5 patients. Those are patented treatments with limits. The resin that works has been sitting in plain sight for 25 centuries. It does not have a patent. It has 24 Greek villages, a UNESCO designation, an EU protected designation of origin, and 2,500 years of continuous clinical use. Now perhaps it is time for it to have your attention. If this vault changed how you see the inside of your own stomach, do not let this knowledge disappear again. Subscribe to Nature's Lost Vault and hit the notification bell. Every like and every share bypasses the algorithm to preserve what they tried to erase. The next vault opens soon.